Victoria Caldwell stood at the head of the conference table, her presentation illuminating the faces of Caldwell Logistics' board members. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. She spoke with the practiced confidence of someone who had never been questioned, never been doubted. Her voice was smooth, her points delivered with razor-sharp clarity, her charts and projections painting a future of unquestionable growth and seamless integration, following the recent acquisition of Cold Data Solutions. Then a voice cut through the room, quiet but unmistakable. These numbers don't match. They've been encoded. Every head turned toward the man at the far end of the table, a place usually reserved for the quietest, most junior attendees. Marcus Cole, a data analyst from the small company Caldwell had acquired just weeks before, sat with a calm stillness that contrasted violently with the sudden tension in the air. Victoria's smile thinned, her eyes narrowing into icy shards. "And who are you to question my report?" The unspoken words hung in the silence. "You are nothing. You are a speck from a company we now own." Marcus met her gaze without blinking, his hands resting flat on the table. Someone who's decoded far more complicated things. The statement was simple, devoid of boast, yet it carried a weight that made the financial figures on the screen seem suddenly flimsy. 3 months earlier, Marcus Cole pulled his weathered Subaru into the pickup line at Richmond Elementary. The afternoon sun filtered through oak trees that had stood on this street for 100 years, casting long shadows across windshields and children's faces. This was his true north, the daily ritual that anchored him. When Sophie emerged through the double doors, her backpack bouncing against her small frame, Marcus felt the same quiet joy he experienced every single day at this moment. It was the reason he had rebuilt his entire life from ashes. She climbed into the back seat, already talking before her seatbelt clicked. "Dad, Mrs. Patterson said my math work was excellent today. She said I solved the problem faster than anyone in the whole class." Marcus adjusted the rearview mirror to see her face, bright with pride and excitement. "That's my girl. You want to play the code game tonight?" Sophie's eyes lit up like they always did when he mentioned their special tradition. This was the thing that belonged only to them, the language only they spoke. It had started 4 years ago, in the weeks after Elena's death, when Marcus needed something to fill the silence that threatened to swallow their small apartment whole. His wife had fought the cancer for 2 years before it finally took her. And in those terrible final months, Marcus had watched Sophie retreat into herself, becoming quieter, smaller, as if she could disappear into the walls and escape the grief that saturated their home. The code games had been his way of reaching her, of reminding her that communication could be play, that connection could be found even in the darkest times. What started as simple number substitutions had grown into increasingly complex ciphers, each one a bridge between father and daughter, a shared secret in a world that felt too loud and too painful. Their apartment in Church Hill was small but warm, filled with Sophie's drawings on the refrigerator and photographs of Eleanor on every available surface, a gallery of love and loss. That evening, after dinner had been eaten and dishes washed, Marcus sat at the kitchen table with a piece of paper and a pencil. Sophie leaned against his shoulder, watching as he wrote out a sequence of numbers, with the careful precision that had once, in a different lifetime, decoded messages from some of the most dangerous people in the world. "Remember the cipher we learned last week?" he asked. Sophie nodded seriously, her brow furrowing in concentration. She studied the numbers, her lips moving silently as she worked through the substitution. Then her face broke into a triumphant grin. "It says ice cream victory!" Marcus laughed, the sound still feeling like a gift after years of silence. "You got it, kiddo. A double scoop just for you." This was their world, a world of quiet routines, of coded love letters, of rebuilding. The high-stakes pressure of his former life as a cryptographic analyst for a government agency was a ghost he had willingly left behind, traded for this, for sticky fingers and math homework, and the profound peace of being truly needed. The acquisition of coal, data solutions by Caldwell Logistics, was supposed to be a formality, a minor asset purchase. For Marcus, it meant a stable paycheck, good health insurance for Sophie, and the ability to work with data in a quiet, anonymous capacity. He kept his head down, his past buried, his focus solely on the intricate patterns within spreadsheets. It was during a routine data audit, tasked with reconciling shipment volumes with financial reports, that he first saw it, a pattern hidden within the numbers of a major account Victoria had personally secured. It was elegant, almost beautiful in its complexity, a steganographic cipher woven directly into the inventory and revenue columns. To anyone else, it was a successful contract. To Marcus, it was a scream. The numbers were telling a different story, hiding massive losses, phantom shipments, and inflated revenues. It was a house of cards, and Victoria Caldwell was at the center of it, using the acquisition's integration chaos to mask the deception. The boardroom fell into a stunned silence after Marcus's declaration. Victoria's composure cracked for a single fleeting second, revealing a flash of pure panic before the mask of disdain slammed back down. Encoded. "What on earth are you babbling about? These are quarterly figures." Marcus stood, walking slowly to the main screen. He ignored her, his focus absolute. "If you'll direct your attention to the revenue stream from the Avalon account. Column G. The numbers follow a Fibonacci sequence deviation. It's a classic carrier signal. The real data is in the variance." He began recalculating live, his fingers flying over the keyboard connected to the projector. As he worked, the projected profits evaporated, replaced by staggering losses. A murmur rose in the room. Victoria tried to interrupt, her voice rising, but the board chairman, an old man with sharp eyes, held up a hand. "Let him finish." Marcus did not look at Victoria. He was in his element now, the one place where he could not be intimidated. "The acquisition of my former company provided fresh, clean books to layer this onto. It was a smokescreen. The actual logistics data, which I've cross-referenced with port manifests and independent trucking logs, tells the true story. There are no shipments. The revenue is a fiction." He finally turned to Victoria. "You weren't presenting a report. You were broadcasting a cipher, and you just didn't expect anyone here to speak the language. The fallout was swift and merciless. Security was called but for Victoria. The board, now in a controlled frenzy, sequestered themselves with Marcus and the raw data. He explained it all with a calm detachment, the ghost of his past life rising just enough to do one last good thing. He was no longer just a data analyst from a small acquisition. He was the man who saved Caldwell Logistics from a catastrophic fraud. Later, as the building emptied under the cloak of night, Marcus sat in the now empty boardroom, exhausted. The chairman offered him a promotion, a vice presidency, a massive bonus. Marcus declined it all. He accepted only a modest retention bonus and a guarantee of remote work flexibility. "I have to pick up my daughter from school," he said, as if that explained everything. Perhaps it did. That night, after the extraordinary events of the day had settled into a strange, quiet reality, Marcus and Sophie sat at their kitchen table once more. The code game that night was simple. A basic Caesar cipher Sophie could solve in seconds. The message decoded to, "You are my greatest victory." Sophie beamed, but then looked at her father closely. "You seem different today, Dad." Marcus pulled her into a hug. "Just remembering what's important, sweetheart. The hardest codes to crack aren't made of numbers. They're made of feelings, and we've cracked the best one together." He thought of Victoria Caldwell, who spoke a language of deception and power, and he thought of the quiet, honest language of numbers and love he shared with his daughter. One had built a prison, the other had built a bridge out of the deepest grief. In the end, Marcus Cole had decoded more than just fraudulent figures. He had decoded the blueprint for a life that mattered, a life measured not in profits, but in the light in his daughter's eyes when she solved the puzzle, in the unshakable knowledge that their private language of love was the only code that would ever truly need to be broken. again and again, every single day. Thank you for immersing yourself in this story of hidden truths and the enduring code of love. If this narrative resonated with you, please show your support for Kindness True Stories by liking this video. Sharing this story helps spread its message of resilience and connection. To ensure you never miss our heartfelt content, subscribe to the Kindness True Stories channel and hit the notification bell. Your engagement fuels our mission to bring more such powerful tales to light.